Okay, make your own salt water. I'm actually making this video for a friend who's just getting into the hobby because I was going to explain it all, but I figured I might as well put it on video. That way anybody else who was interested in the info could get it. So when you first start a saltwater tank, the easiest thing to do is to go to the fish store with the 5-gallon jugs or buckets and go pick up your salt water, dump it out, put it back in there. That starts to get a little old when you have to run back and forth to the store every week if you're doing weekly water changes, carrying those around. It isn't long before you want to just set up a water system to make your own salt water. Saves you lots of time and some money. So let's talk about what you start with. This is a 15-gallon brute garbage can. And that's pretty much the heart of mixing up salt water, is a container large enough to do a 10 or a 20%. Now I have a 55-gallon main display and a couple smaller, or one other smaller tank. So this is enough for me to mix up, a 25%. A little more might be nice, but I could do back-to-back water changes and it would be okay. So on the top, I have my fresh water. On the bottom, I have my salt water. But you don't need all that. To simply start, you just need one garbage can. Okay, so let's talk about what you just needed for the basics, and then I'll tell you what you can do if you want. First thing you do, you go out and get yourself a brute can. They're clean enough. They're fine, and you just need something dedicated for your saltwater mixing. Okay. The next thing you need is the clean water to put in it. This is my RODI system, and I'll just hang it up on the wall eventually. This one's pretty nice, but basically if you have a reverse osmosis system, that could be good enough for fish. You add on even just one of these things of DI resin, and now you've got 0 TDS water, something very pure to start your water with. I've got mine filled up here and ready to go. So if you were able to make your own water, or if you bought it from the store, distilled water, purified water, you went to the fish store, you got your RO water, you start with that. Simply put it in the can, okay? And down here, I've got a bag of salt, okay? And just keep my salt right there. I've got some measuring cups here that I kind of have figured out how much to put in by testing multiple times, but by doing that nonetheless. And you just pour your salt in. Now, you got to mix it up. The easiest way to mix it up is with a water pump. Okay, so my pump mixes my salt water down here. But if you just have just a regular small pump, that would go in a fish tank. All it's got to do is suck water in and blow it out. You basically just drop it in there, okay, and it'll swirl around the bottom, and in a while it'll be ready. The other things that I've got in here is I've got 2 heaters in here, but you got heat. So basically I've got my pump, I've got my main pump here, I've got a small pump in there I'll talk about in a second. But if you have a pump and you have heat and you have water and you have salt and you have a container, you're done. Okay, so some salts take an hour or 2 to mix up, some salts mix overnight, no big deal. Once you get your can full of water, you put what you think is enough salt in there, and then you put your pump and your heater in and you let it stir around and mix, and then you grab your refractometer and you check it and you make sure it's at 0.025 or 0.026. If it's too salty, it's just I kind of like to mix mine, like I'll fill my water up to like here on the bottom anyways. I'll keep it a little lower and I'll mix it a little saltier, and then if it's too salty, 0.30 or something, I'll just add some fresh water, check it again, like 20 minutes of it mixing, add some fresh water until I get it there. If it's too salty, if it's not salty enough, like 0.19, I'll take a little half scoop of salt, maybe like a 1/4 cup or something, and I'll throw it in there and I'll run it for an hour or 2 and I'll check it again. So there's a little bit of dialing in there, but once you've done it a few times, you get real good at it. You just mix it up the day before the water change or whatever, and then you walk out here and you've got salt water that's mixed, to the right temperature. I've got a thermometer on here. My heaters, are they on? One of them is. That's why I have two to heat it up the rest of the way. But anyways, you mix it up to the right temperature, right salinity, and then that little pump that that little fish tank pump that you're using to mix it, all you do is you just squeeze up, you put a hose on there and just pop it onto the pump, turn it on, put the other end in your fish tank, and you can fill your fish tank up. Obviously, you can use that same hose to siphon it out. But I did that for a long time with a 30-gallon, with just a 5-gallon bucket. I put the pump in the 5-gallon bucket, mixed up the salt, and I just take the hose and put it on the pump and pump it out, and life was good. But again, if you're getting into bigger tanks like my buddy's 55-gallon, you're going to need something a little bigger, dedicated. Now, obviously, this takes up a little room. That's a hot water heater. You got to kind of have a place to put it, but, that's part of the hobby. Now, this water station takes it to the next level a little. So, again, we've got the RODI unit, the water saver, 150 gallon per day. I've got the wastewater going right into my laundry drain there. I've got feed water, that's the red water coming in, going right to the unit. And then 2 DI resin beds, and then a little float valve in here. So this automatically fills up. I always have fresh water. I keep an eye on the temperature if I want, but there's a little thermometer in there. So that fills up my fresh water. I plumbed together this valve system, and I built this wooden stand. I put my salt water underneath. I want fresh water. I can get fresh water out for my RO water. I can open this valve, open that one. Actually, it's set up for it now. Go through there, go through there. I got a pump down here, up and out. And I use this short little hose right here to fill up my water jugs for my RO water, for my top-off water, for evaporation. If I want salt water, I let it go down in here, and I fill up this can down here. Now, this can sometimes it is full, sometimes it isn't, just depending on what part of the week it is. But in here, I did a water change already. So I've got some heaters down there. There's a pump down there that you can't really see. It's just a cheap power head, like a $30 power head. You can tell where it is by this magnet here. So on the other side of that suction cup is a pump to circulate the water. I use Fritz salt. They recommend Airstone, so I actually also have an Airstone running in there, and I'm mixing it up. But you don't need that for any other salt. That's the only one I've seen that does that. So basically, I let I fill this down here, and I like to leave 6 inches or so, and I mix it up what I think is a little salty, maybe to 0.28, 0.29 per my guess, and then I'll just let a little more fresh water run down there till I get to 0.025, and I'm good. And I'll check it with either my digital refractometer, and then I've got my backup right there. So when I want to mix up some water, I just fill it up to there. I take my scoop, I scoop my salt in. It's actually 8 cups is what I use for this size. And then I shut off the clean water. I open up that, and I close down this side. And so I've got the little power head in there that's always really mixed, and I just leave it on most of the time always. But when I'm making the salt, mixing it up for either for an hour or two, or maybe even overnight sometimes, I'll open this one, it'll come out, shoot out the pump, come up here, and go back in. So I have a feed loop here, which gets my salt water mixed up. And then I have warm, or temperature, same as my tanks. I match the temperature to my tanks. I just got a cheap little thermometer hanging in there. Match the temperature to my tanks. And then I've got, right salinity, right temperature water ready to go. A nice little bonus feature that I put together on this is I've got a hose here that reaches my tanks, and I click it in, and I take the other end to the tank, and this is what that looks like. So I just hang that in the tank, and then I don't have to carry the water in there. And I've got 2 tanks. I just go, I do my water change on the same day. I just take I still siphon out into a 5-gallon bucket and carry it back. I do have it set up to where I could draw the salt water in siphon it out into the sink if I wanted. It's just so quick to take a 3/4 inch hose and just drain it with a 5-gallon bucket. It doesn't bother me to set, but if I ever wanted to, I could, use the hose to suck it out, use the hose to put it back. But right now I just use the 5-gallon bucket to get it out, and then I run this and fill back up, and it saves time and energy, and that's what they say about the hobby, that if you set yourself up to make things easy and save time, then you're more likely to do them. And the water change once a week, I do 10% once a week on my big tank, 20% once a week, which I'm thinking about doing 20% twice a week on my Pico, because Picos are hard, and that keeps my tanks happy. And I wouldn't live without this thing now that I have it. I just love it, and it makes reefing a lot easier. But again, just getting that can or that 5-gallon bucket. This is actually my old mixing bucket. I put the paint lid on it. But just having something at the house to do it yourself, once you do it a few times, it just makes life so easy. So I hope that helps anybody, and happy reefing.